so glad that you've joined us for this study of the book of Colossians. And today we're in the first chapter again, verse number 10. Let me just say a couple things before we get into our study. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button. And if you would like to continue to get information from Thrive Ministries and more teaching from Thrive Ministries, hit the subscribe button. Go to our YouTube channel. There is all kinds of teaching there. Also, I want you to understand that the Apostle Paul is writing this wonderful book to the Colossians. But it's so important that we take this whole thing in context. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say it. Go back and listen to the other videos and study this thing through together, because it all fits together like a wonderful machine. You know, if you take a modern day car, now to be real honest with you, I pop the hood on my truck and I take a look at it and I think there are so many parts here, I have no idea. You know, I like to wrench or do mechanical work on 69s and 70s, but this stuff today, I just take a look at it. Sometimes I just close the hood and call the mechanic. But there's so many moving parts, so many things. It's so complex nowadays. And you know what? That's the way that we need to look at the Word of God. This thing is so complex that we need to continue to study it, but we need to study it in order. And that's why it's very important that you study the books of the Bible in context. You study them verse by verse. You study them in order. Now, today we're in verse number 10, and this is what it says. It says, so that you will walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, to please him in all respects, bearing fruit in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God. Now, what's Paul doing? Paul's praying. And Paul is praying for the Colossian church. And he's praying that the Colossian church now would know the knowledge, or have the knowledge of the will of God in wisdom and in understanding. In other words, when a person knows the will of God. And again, I'm not talking about what you're going to do next month. I'm talking about what God's desire is for you. When you know that, you know what? Your life begins to change. I believe that one of the weaknesses of believers today is they don't know God's will. Now, they might pray and say, God, do you want me to marry so-and-so? Do you want me to go here? Do you want me to go there? You know what? Those people it's good in praying that, but that is only a small fraction of what the will of God is for them. We need to know that the will of God is encompassed in his grace. It's encompassed in his mercy. It's encompassed in the gospel itself. And that's what Paul is talking to the Colossians about. But now, what is the result of knowing the will of God? First of all, he says that you may walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. You know what? Knowing the will of God, knowing the very purpose of God for your life, will cause you to walk differently. It will cause you to live differently. Knowing that you will walk in the manner worthy of the Lord. Now, just think about that. That our lives would be an example. That God himself is going to say, wow, look at those people. Look at that person. Look at how they're walking. Now, again, keep in mind, I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a person who knows the will of God. I'm talking about a person who's received the gospel. I'm talking about a person that knows and understands the purpose of the grace of God in their life. And you know what happens? Their life changes. And they begin to walk like Jesus in this world. You see, religion has come, and religion has said, this is what you do. You do this, 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 this. And you know what? Even though those things are right and good, that is not how we do it. We do it, first of all, and from this precept of knowing the will of God. That God is for you, that He's not against you. He doesn't hate you. He's not trying to kill you. But when you know that, you know what happens? Your life begins to change, and you begin to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. Now let's go on. To please Him in all respects. In other words, every area of your life becomes pleasing to Him. I believe God many times sits up there in heaven and He goes, and Jesus goes to the Father and He says, hey, Father, see that believer down there? Look what they're doing. Look how they're walking. They caught it. They got it. They got the gospel. They understand the will of God. They know that you love them. Look how that's changed their life. And I think that Jesus and the Father are just up there going, wow, look at that. You see, when we walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, you know what happens? It pleases Him. He rejoices in that. And then He goes on and He says, and bearing fruit in every good work. You know what happens? When we really understand and grasp the will of God for us, and how He loves us, and how Jesus died for us, and how Jesus redeemed us, how He took the curse of sin. When we really understand that, you know what happens? We begin to bear fruit in every good work. Now notice, He didn't say that we bear every good work. He said we bear fruit in every good work. You know, how many of you know there's a lot of religious good works, but not every religious good works bears fruit? Now, I just looked at the timer and I need to hurry. Please go back and look at this yourself. And then He says, increasing in the knowledge of God. You know, as we increase in the knowledge of God, you know what? The more that we know of God and His love for us and His will for us, the more our lives change. You know what? Please come back again next week. We've got so much more to say to you. God bless you. Thank you for watching.